here's where it gets really cool, and this is kind of the capstone of all of it. When you go to Starbucks or McDonald's or these places, usually you pay in dollars or euros, and they get paid in dollars or euros. But what if we could move to a world of a universal wallet where your wealth is no longer represented in a sovereign currency? It's whatever the heck you want, and it's as diversified as you want. You can have airline miles and silver and gold and stocks and bonds and real estate and your labor. You can pre-sell your hours, all of these things into a giant wallet, okay? Along with maybe dollars or whatever. And when you go to Starbucks and you buy, you pick whatever you want. Maybe you're going to sell 0.0003% of your house as a token. And they get paid in whatever they want. So maybe Starbucks that year says, we want to take a position in silver. So for 30% of our transactions, we'll be paid in silver. So you pay in your house, they get paid in silver. And there's these decentralized rails that figure out how to sort all that out, transform all that value, do it at a very efficient price, and settle instantly with no counterparty risk. Everybody gets paid in what they want, where they want. So you move from wealth as I'm this many dollars to wealth as, whatever portfolio you want. That is the primary utility of this entire thing, is to create a system where we can emerge up to that. Everyone has access to it. Everyone's a participant. Billions of people are all collectively in the same things, and it's fraud-free, corruption-free. No government can step in and shut somebody out. You all have access to the same river.
Yeah. I can hear our viewers' minds being blown by what you've just described. You're talking about effectively a revolution that is every bit as powerful and as large, if not more so, than the revolution that came with the internet, as the internet did for information. You're talking about value, storage, and transfer, and the programmatic ability to structure that type of activity on a universal computer.
Exactly. And it is as accessible to the poorest amongst us as it is to the richest amongst us. It's an easy thing to do, to build something magical and wonderful for the rich, powerful people. That's what they expect and they have the resources for. It's a much harder thing to do, to build something just that revolutionary, but give it to the person who makes $1 a day. And this is what our industry is basically doing.
And, the ability to change people's lives. I was impressed when I rewatched your interview from 2017 talking about things that are happening in emerging markets in the developing world. If you think about what this is doing, obviously great utility here in developed markets. But if you think about something just as simple as remittances, when you look at a fee of 15% to send money back home for people, that effectively means that there are people who are laboring, doing the hardest labor imaginable, things that most people in the developed world couldn't dream of, and they're paying a bank with basically a month of their labor per year. It's pretty extraordinary and really kind of depressing.
Absolutely. And that's the whole reason I joined this space. People often ask me, like, well, why did you become an entrepreneur in this space? I said, well, there were 3 events that happened in my life that inspired me and pissed me off enough to be so crazy that I get to wear a poncho and run around and do, stuff around the world, in Africa and other places. I said, well, first off, I used to live in Virginia. And when I was there, I'd go to the same diner over and over again. And the waitress who served me, one day, I never forget this, her husband came in and they started talking in Spanish to each other, and she was in tears. And I asked her what happened, and she said, well, her husband, who was an undocumented immigrant, he was a drywaller. He'd just been paid. He was pulled over by the police. They found the cash in his car, and they confiscated it. They didn't arrest him. They didn't charge him with anything. They just confiscated it, said it was drug money. And that was called civil asset forfeiture. And he has no recourse. He can't really sue. He can't really do anything. He's not even U.S. legally. So basically, with theft in the United States, in Virginia. And I just couldn't believe in my country that would happen. You hear that, you say, oh, that's Zimbabwe, that's Syria, that's Iraq, that the corrupt countries do that. We don't do that in the United States, that a police officer just take money from a person who is obviously at the bottom of the economic pyramid, and they do it because they know they can get away with it. Second, I remember in 2008 when the financial crisis happened and Obama got elected. And I was very excited about it. I was a Ron Paul guy, but I said, well, this Obama guy is completely new. He has his middle name is Hussein, for God's sakes. This is as far out in the political system you can go. We don't do this in America. He has a supermajority. You know, he has all 60 senators. He's got the whole Congress. The U.S. population wants blood. Wall Street's going to pay. The banking system's going to be reformed. Regulation's going to come to fundamentally transform our relationship with our financial institutions and systems. This guy comes in, no one went to jail. There were emails from Goldman Sachs traders and other people laughing how they screwed people, selling them junk. And there was congressional hearings where they read out the emails and no one went to jail. Everybody kept their bonuses. There was no change. And the system got bigger. The banks that were too big to fail consolidated and got even more bigger. It's crazy. It just blew my mind that this was allowed to happen. And it made me so cynical. And then the last thing was I read this biography about Norman Borlaug. And he's one of those guys that nobody remembers that name, but he actually had one of the greatest impacts in human history. So he was just this unassuming agricultural technology guy who really loved fertilizer, and he went around the world teaching people how to use it properly. And they estimate that over his lifetime, because of the agricultural practices that he taught people, over 1 billion people's lives were saved. 1 billion people didn't starve to death. One person saved 1 billion people. So when those three formative events, it said, okay, the world's not going to change itself. You can't wait for a savior. It said that there is certainly a lot of injustice at the small scale and at the global scale, even in my own country, and one person can change the world. So when those three things happened, I said, you know what, let me go do something crazy and do this whole cryptocurrency thing. And so I joined the space and I was trying to figure out what to do. I started with education and kind of pushed through. And now we have millions of people that are drinking the Kool-Aid. And you know what you call millions of people? That's an army.